Hello and welcome to this special episode of the Knitting Pickle podcast. My name is Laura and you can find me here on YouTube, Instagram and Ravelry as Penrose Knits. Now, if you have not joined me before, you have joined me for a special episode. This isn't what I'd normally do. I normally make a knitting podcast called The Knitting Pickle, where I talk about my projects, my finished objects, acquisitions, my designs, all that kind of stuff. And yesterday, I made one of those episodes, but forgot to plug my microphone in properly. Normally, I always do a little sound check and a lighting test, but yesterday, I don't know why I didn't, and that's the one time my microphone wasn't attached properly. So I can't use any of that footage. I do feel, however, it was the universe telling me that it wasn't meant to be, because I wasn't particularly happy with the episode anyway. I've got like 4 projects on the go at the moment, and they're all basically the same. So it just didn't feel very interesting, and I was also quite rambly. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave it a week, give myself some time to work on my projects a little bit more and plan the episode out a little bit better. I forgot a load of things I wanted to talk about, and it just wasn't knitting pickle quality. So, however, I did want to post a video this week, and I suppose I could have redone the episode today, but it just didn't feel right. So I've been thinking about making this particular episode for a while, and the opportunity has been presented to me. It's a Thursday today, so my son is at nursery, but my daughter's at home. She is currently chilling out in the living room, which is just over there. So we may get interrupted. We'll see. But I've decided to film in my kitchen because I can sit here and talk to you, and then I can also step back and try the things on. So what I'm going to do today is show you all the garments I knit for myself in 2021. Now you may be thinking, come on Laura, it's mid-Feb 2022. It's a bit late, isn't it? Well, yes, I guess it is. And to be honest, I wasn't planning on making this video. Firstly, because I didn't think I had that much to show you. And then I looked in my drawer and was like, actually, I made quite a lot last year. I don't have everything here that I made last year because I made a lot of things for other people, and there is one garment that I've now gifted, which I'll chat about, but obviously I can't show you. But I thought, do you know what? Let's just do a little recap. It's been a year since I made some of these items, so I can now update you on how I think the yarn is holding out, what I think about the pattern, if I wear it or if I don't wear it, if I'd make it again. So if you have seen these garments before, there's going to be some new information for you here. Or if you're new to my channel, you should be able to get a general vibe for the kind of thing I like to make, which is something I like when I find a new YouTube channel or a new knitter on YouTube. I always like to see if they've done a what I knit in a year or my knitted jumper collection, because you can get a really good idea in one video of what they're into. So hopefully that is what this will be like for you. So we should probably get started. How many have I got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 things. Eek. So I should probably start with the first thing that I finished in 2021. This first jumper I actually cast on in 2020, but didn't finish until 2021 because there's a major error in it. And that is my Novice Sweater Mohair Edition by Petite Knits. And you can kind of see here that, I mean, it looks fine here, but I didn't know about dye-lots when I made this, and I couldn't afford all the mohair in one go, so I bought as much as I could afford and thought, well, I'll just buy some more another time, which I did, and of course my dye-lots don't match. So my sleeves are subtly different to the body, and you can kind of see the line here. And when I realised this after knitting the first sleeve, this fully went in the naughty corner, and it was in there for, I think, a really long time, a good year potentially since I started it. And then I don't know what it was, in January 2021 I just suddenly felt the urge to finish it, and I'm really glad I did, because this is actually, I did blend the 2 yarns a little bit, but I didn't have much left of the original colour, so it's a slight fade, but what you kind of end up with is kind of like a statement jumper. in that it looks like it's got ombre sleeves. So I'm just wearing like my joggers today, my lounge about trousers, because I get really uncomfortable in jeans and I'm going to be doing a lot of getting up and down and I don't want to exacerbate that uncomfortableness. But I tend to wear jeans that are high-waisted like this anyway, so if anything it's a good representation. So imagine I'm wearing jeans, but this tends to be how I wear it. I have no idea if I got gauge on this. This was made back when I didn't gauge swatch. I've got a feeling I don't. Petite knit patterns are very oversized anyway in general, but I do think this is a lot bigger than I intended it to be. So you can kind of tell that the arms are a different colour, but I think you can get away with it. So another issue with this jumper is that I was still doing like traditional bind offs at the time, and the bind off along the bottom has like no stretch to it, it's really tight. I can still get it on and it's fine, but I could have done with a little bit more stretch there, I think. And it's the same on the cuffs, again, not really any stretch, but I'm not at liberty to rip back the mohair and redo an Italian bind off. That's not happening. So I'm gonna ask each garment 3 questions. The first question is, how often do I wear it? The second is, how is the yarn held up? And the third is, would I make it again? So question number 1, how often do I wear it? Honestly, not that often. As much as I love this colour in theory, I don't think it suits me that well. I think it's a little too close to my skin tone and washes me out a little bit. And yeah, it's just not one that I reach to that often. Maybe more so in the spring, which we're about to go into. So this is going to stay in my collection for now. I'm going to give it another year of wear to see if it will keep its place in the collection. But overall, I don't wear this that often. What was the second question? Oh, here she comes. So, the yarn. This is knit in the Rowan Kid Silk Haze. I believe it was the shade Shadow, something along those lines. And this is one of the nicest mohairs I think I've worked with overall. It's expensive. Mohair is, you know, on the higher end of the scale anyway, but seeing as you can get drops for like £4 a ball, when you're spending more like £8-9 a ball, it's like, what's the real difference? I can assure you there is a difference. This doesn't really irritate me. Can't guarantee that it won't irritate you, but for me, who I've kind of got like medium to low sensitivity, I can wear this against skin. As I said, it's about a year old and I've probably worn it about 8 or 9 times, and we do have some pilling along the sleeves, and I haven't made any attempts to depill it, but overall I think it's held up really, really well. Final question, would I make it again? I would think I would make this pattern again, but I probably wouldn't do it in this yarn and this colour. I am feeling I want a few more like basic staples in my wardrobe. As you'll see, most of the things I've knit have an element of statement to them. Most of the things I've made have like a statement to them, and I think that came from me just being so excited about all the things and all the patterns and drawn to all the really like big things. But I think I've learned about myself that deep down I'm more into the kind of basic plainer stuff. So yes, I think I would knit this again, but maybe in a different yarn and different colour. So that was item number 1. The next thing I finished in 2021 was cast on and finished in 2021. And this jumper has so many memories attached to it and is one of my favourite knits. You may recognise it if you've been with me for a while, but this is the no it's not. This is the Chunky Dahlia by Lenny Home Samso, also known as Lynette. I think I might have to wait until she's gone for a nap. So yes, this is my Chunky Dahlia by Lenny Home Samso of Lynette, and I wore this in the very first episode of the Knitting Pickle. I also made this at a very poignant part in my life. This time last year, we were right in the depths of a massive reno. Where I'm sitting right now did not exist a year ago. We basically did a whole house renovation in 6 months in the first half of 2021. So whenever I pick this up or put it on or think about it, I'm instantly transported back to that time, sitting on my bed, because that was the only room that we could be in for 5 weeks with 2 kids in lockdown. I just remember working on this, and I think this kept me sane during that time. So let's pop it on. I mean, come on, it's the one, isn't it? It's just such a stunning pattern. It's insanely popular. You see them everywhere, and there's a reason. It is a pleasure to knit. It's beautifully designed, and as far as I'm aware, it's size inclusive, but I'll have to double check on that. So it's just a top down lace yoke with a folded collar, and I think this is the first time I've done a folded collar. And it's also the first time I did a proper Italian bind off on the cuff and on the bottom. And yeah, I wear this a lot. I wear it more in autumn and winter, of course. It's a cropped body, but it's a slightly longer crop. And I will always usually like tuck it in at the front. You can see it's just got a really comfy, cozy vibe. I definitely got the proportions of this one spot on, I think. But yes, how often do I wear it? All the time. Like, quite often. If I want to wear something that makes me feel a bit like extra, but I'm just being cash, I'll go for this very often, and it's super warm. So this one's definitely staying in the wardrobe. Second question, what about the yarn? So this is the West Yorkshire Spinners Retreat in the shade Tranquil, I think, and not a fan of this yarn. I chose this yarn because I had it in stash. It's a chunky weight yarn, and it's like an unspun, I don't think it's spun, but it's like a unspun poofy type affair, but it doesn't break when you knit with it. And the pattern calls for, I think, chunky and mohair held together on 7mm needles. But at the time, I didn't like working with bigger needles, and I didn't have the mohair to hold with it and didn't want to buy any. So I went down to a 6mm needle and just used the chunky yarn on its own. I'm now thinking if I had the mohair held with it, this yarn would have held up a lot better. But from the very, very first wear, it pilled, and it is still pilling a year later and a lot of wears later, particularly in the usual places that it would pill. Here, I have literally de-pilled this last week, and I can't keep up with the pilling. I don't know if it ever will stop pilling, but overall it doesn't stop me wearing it. So I wouldn't buy the yarn again, but I do still wear this. Would I knit this pattern again? I would knit it for somebody else again. I don't think I'd knit it for myself again because I have it. I don't feel the need for another one. I would like it in a less pilly yarn, but not to the point that I would go through the process of knitting it again. However, knowing it's such a lovely, satisfying knit, I would knit it for somebody else if I wanted to make someone a present. Careful, baby. This is also the garment where I really began to truly understand the magic of blocking. When I finished it, I put it on straight away and it didn't look very good, and I was really disappointed, and I was like, why isn't this right? The sleeves are too short, the body is too short, I feel really uncomfortable, I don't like it. And I thought, everybody says that you should block, so I guess I'll block it. And magic happened. The drape appeared, the length appeared, the lace opened up. So this pattern for me, and this jumper in particular, was like, I learned so much from it, and it holds so many memories that I don't think I will ever get rid of this jumper. Apologies for my one nail without nail polish, chipped off this morning. So yeah, this is going to stay in my collection for a long time. Next up, what did I finish next? I think it was this one. I'm not too sure. So next up was my first ever, oh my lord. Next up was my first ever jumper design. And I say jumper design loosely because I don't think I'm gonna take it any further. I guess it's more of a self-draft. I made this in April, I think, going into spring, when we were suddenly expecting a very cold snap and a snowy, stormy spell, and I wanted something really, really warm. It's also around the same time that I started watching podcasts and learning a lot more about yarn. So this is my Cedar Lane sweater. It is a oversized boxy raglan with a split hem at the bottom with longer at the back than at the front, and a folded collar. Oh my gosh, every time I get it out I'm like, yeah, you should do something with this, Laura. It's cool. Don't really wear it because it's not really my colours, but I do wear it when I need something really, really warm, and that is because it is made out of Alafos Lopi. So I bought this yarn originally to make a jumper for my mum that was like a traditional Icelandic, what's it called? What's that thing called? The Icelandic jumper called? Why can't I remember that word? A traditional Icelandic colourwork sweater, basically. But I didn't know anything about Lopi yarn, how rustic it is, and when it arrived I was shocked and appalled by it. I was like, I can't make my mum something like this. This yarn is horrible. And I even swatched it and washed it and it didn't soften up very much, and I was just like, no. So this went into stash, and then I started watching a lot of Inga from Knitting Traditions, and obviously she's all about the rustic yarn, and I started to learn a lot more about it and its properties and why it is the way it is and its uses. It's never intended to be a, you know, like a soft next to skin yarn. It's meant to be robust and rustic and warm and thick, because if you live in Iceland, that's what you need. So I don't know why I decided to go with this particular design. I think I just wanted something simple, and at the time raglan seemed like the most simplest thing to me. I knew how to do it, so I just went for it. And originally this was just a single flat collar, but I quickly realised that I didn't like how it was looking. But by the time I realised that, I had run out of this yarn, this colour. So what I actually did was I picked up my cast on stitches and knit the inside with a completely different yarn. This is just like a hobbycraft acrylic that I had hanging around, and it was actually a really happy mistake, because it means that inside bit that's against my neck isn't scratchy, it's quite smooth. So I think I might have accidentally come up with something really clever there. Because this yarn was originally intended for colour work, I had like 3 balls of this, 3 balls of this, and like I had quite a lot of this actually, because this was meant to be my main colour, but it's the colour I liked the least. So I thought, well, I'll start with the colour I like the most, and then I will just use up all the gold, and then whatever's left over I'll use the red. So I shall show you. So yeah, it's a big boxy fit, lots of extra fabric in the sleeves. And I went for longer at the back, shorter at the front, split hem, because the intention for this sweater was something to wear when you go walking. So in that springtime when it's getting warmer, but it's not really, really warm yet, so you still need a jumper, but you don't necessarily need a coat. So my thought was, when you're walking, you want lots of space. I didn't want any tightness around this area of my body, so I went with a split. And I mean, it worked. Another thing that I did was that I did rolled cuffs as well. So these are double the length and then turned inside themselves, so that they are extra like tight and keep the warmth in. So I actually think overall this is quite a well-designed sweater. And I did start another one, and it is in a project bag somewhere in this house, but I used a Bergère de France yarn that was 50% wool, 50% acrylic, and I did it in like white, pink and red. I never finished it because I didn't particularly like the yarn and I wasn't so hot on the colours, and I did change the proportions a little bit. I think I had less in the sleeves than I did in the body. But the main reason I didn't continue with this as a design is because I was quite intimidated by raglan shaping. So for someone of my completely average sized body, and averagely proportioned, like my chest is in proportion with my arms. The only place I'm not in proportion is my hips are like ridiculously wider than my waist, so I basically never have jeans that fit. But when it comes to my torso, I'm pretty much in like average proportion, so I just increase equally either side of the raglan until it's as long as I want and we're good. However, when you start grading raglans and going up in the sizes, you then start needing to have more in the body, less in the arms, and though I feel less intimidated by that now, I quite like the challenge of doing that. This time last year, I was not ready for that kind of challenge, and I'm not going to go forward with the design unless I can make it size inclusive, because that's mega important to me. So, I don't know. Oh, this, by the way, it was called the Cedar Lane, which is one of my favourite songs. I was listening to a lot at the time, and the lyrics were quite appropriate. Let me know in the comments if you know who that song's by. So yeah, this is the Cedar Lane. How often do I wear it? Not very often. It's got a very specific purpose, and that purpose doesn't come around very often. How was the yarn held up? Brilliantly, but I've not worn it very much. And it's meant to be a very tough, rugged yarn, so I expect this will still be going for many, many years to come. I don't intend to get rid of it because it does have a purpose, and I do wear it sometimes. Also, it's like, it's got nostalgia for me because it was like the first draft ever, and as I go along my like journey as a designer, I think it's good to be able to look back at this. Would I make it again? Probably not. There may be a raglan design in my future, and maybe, yeah, maybe I'll do something like this. I'm not sure about the colour blocking. Maybe if I did it in more subtle colours, I'd be more into it. But I'm also reminded that as a designer, it's not necessarily always about what you personally would wear. There are lots of people out there that do enjoy a big, strong colour block, so it could appeal to lots of people. I'm just not sure if I'm there in my design journey yet. So there you go. That's the Cedar Lane. That's the next thing I finished. Now, I'm pretty sure that the next thing I finished in 2021 was my Ranunculus, which I made with John Arbon Devonia 4-ply on 5mm needles. I did like a t-shirt version, but it got felted after 2 or 3 wears, but it was also too short in the body, and it was the wool I found too rustic at the time for a t-shirt, so it was the wrong yarn for the wrong project. So yeah, that was another finished object. I'll quickly ask the questions. How often did I wear it? Not very often, but I didn't really get a chance. How did the yarn hold up? I don't know. All I know is that that yarn is stunning, and I have more of it in stash, and I'm looking forward to using it in a more appropriate project. Would I knit the Ranunculus again? No, because controversial opinion, I don't particularly like the Ranunculus pattern. I like the finished garment, but I don't like the way the pattern is written. It's not the easiest to understand. I don't think, maybe at the time I wasn't such a strong knitter, maybe I'll be fine with it now. But everyone talks about how amazing the Ranunculus and how quick it is and how satisfying it is to knit. Didn't enjoy that yoke texture. I didn't enjoy actually knitting it. Who's that? That's Gerald Giraffe. So yeah, I don't think I'll ever knit a Ranunculus again. Maybe if somebody asked me to knit one, or I needed a quick present for someone, then yeah, I'd probably go for that. But I don't think there are any Ranunculuses in my immediate future. Now, I'm pretty sure that it was at this point in my knitting journey that I got into socks, because it was around this time that I did my first ever pattern the corner set socks and the lovely Anna socks afterwards. And I'm pretty sure I was in like a socky, garmenty phase because there was a bit of a break. What was next? Because we're heading towards summer now. So I think the next thing that I cast on was my Felix sweater. So this is the Felix by Amy Christoffers, Savoury Knitting, I think, and I made it in hedgehog fibres, skinny singles, and alpaca boot clay in the shade Pollen. Now, I bought this yarn on a bit of a whim as a bit of a treat, but I could only afford like the minimum amount. So I had to knit the smallest size, which was like an extra small. So for me, that gave me 0 ease. If anything, a little bit of negativity in the arms, which I'm not mad at, but it's pretty much bang on in the body. Now, I don't wear this very often, and I think the main reason I don't wear it that often is because of the colour and because of the fit. Now, I really like this colour in theory. Yellow is one of the colours that I do enjoy. There's yellow in my decor, there's yellow in my... No, actually there's no yellow in the rest of my wardrobe. So I was definitely attracted to this colour, but I didn't really think it through in terms of would I wear this colour. And the second reason is the fit. Now, you cannot judge the pattern by my version because I knit a size that wasn't intended for my body size. So it isn't quite right. I find the neckline a bit too wide, and this happens. You see the thing I'm wearing underneath, and it just doesn't, I just don't feel like it sits right, and because of that you end up losing some of the raglan detail because this kind of happens. Another reason you lose the raglan detail is because of my yarn choice. Obviously it's a super fluffy alpaca boucle, so you lose the main feature of the jumper. I'm not entirely sure where I left off, but the overall fit I guess is fine, but it's just not something that I reach for that often in my wardrobe. I struggle to find things to wear it with, though there is one item that I do wear it with quite often. I've got a long navy polka dot skirt, which I like wearing in like autumn, winter with black tights. And this goes really nicely with that navy skirt. But again, it's not something that I'm drawn to that often. This was the perfect example of me being attracted to a colour and jumping onto a pattern that I'd seen a lot, but the combination just not really working because I hadn't fully thought it through. Or maybe not so much that I hadn't thought it through, more that I didn't really know what I wanted and needed from my knitwear just yet. So, how often do I wear it? Not very often. How has the yarn stood up? Brilliantly. You cannot fault this yarn. So, I've had hedgehog fibre sock yarn and it didn't hold up very well for me, but I think that might be to do with the way I wear my socks and the shape of my foot. But this yarn in particular is wonderful. There is a teeny bit of pilling here, but because the whole kind of vibe of the boucle, the alpaca boucle, is kind of fuzzy anyway, it kind of disappears in. So I haven't tried to depill it or anything. Look, you see, it's just not made to fit me. It's just not right, is it? So that was my next finished object of 2021. Next up, I'm pretty sure around the same time, because yes, I featured this in like episode 2 of the podcast, is my Petite Knit Friday slipover. Now, again, don't judge the pattern by my version of it because I did not gauge swatch for this, and I also decided to use this project to teach myself how to knit continental, so my gauge was even more off than it probably would have been if I'd knit my normal style English. However, this is definitely one of my most worn items. When I first finished it and I realised it was just not right, far too wide, far too baggy, and like not even in a petite knit oversized way, in just a wrong way, I was really disappointed and a little bit miffed with this project. But after I let it settle for a while, I find myself reaching for this really regularly throughout most seasons as well. So yeah, the fit isn't exactly as I would have envisioned, but the garment as a whole is something that I really like. I keep feeling the need for another slipover in my life, and I think the next thing I turn my design head to is probably going to be a slipover, just because I think they're a really useful garment to have. I want more slipovers in my life because I've forgotten my point. So something I really enjoyed about this one is the construction. You start with the back, you pick up for the shoulders, and you knit down and add the neckband, and you add the little ribbed edging. But the thing I like most about this is the stitch pattern and the texture. This is knit in broken rib, and I'll give you a little close up. So you basically knit one, purl one for a whole row, and then you knit a whole row. It gives this really lovely texture. And where you have increases made, you can't really see. Where you have increases made, you also get this really nice shape, kind of reminiscent of brioche. But overall, it's just really nice. So how often do I wear it? All the time, even though it doesn't really fit me very well. How did the yarn hold up? This is Filcolana Alvetta held with the Alston mohair actually. This is the first time I knit a full garment in Filcolana Alvetta. I originally bought this to make a jumper for my friend's child, but I didn't realise that the pattern was DK, not a 4-ply, and I had this left over, and it's one of the mild Alvettas, so it's like 2 tones of grey mixed together. And I absolutely love. And do you know what? I need to knit something else in this because I do really like this colour. I don't think I've knit anything else grey for myself. I've knit something grey for my sister, but not for myself. And I do have quite a lot of grey in my wardrobe of things that I've bought. So I definitely need to go down the grey route again. And held it with the Alston mohair, which I think I chose because it was the right price point at the time. You don't need very much of it. I think it was like 2 skeins of Alvetta and 2 of the mohair, 3 of the mohair, I'm not too sure. But it's held up really, really well. If you are a viewer of my channel, you'll know about my love affair with Filcolana Alvetta. It's something I feel like every knitter should have in their stash. And it's held up. I don't think the shape of it has changed since I made it. Part of the problems with the bagginess and the oversideness could be that I used a superwash yarn, so it's obviously grown a bit since I've washed it. Though, is it the recommended yarn? Oh, I can see a blue tit on my apple tree. Anyway, I can't remember what the suggested yarn is. It might be Alvetta, but yeah, I don't know. How is the yarn held up? Brilliantly, as far as I'm aware. Would I knit this again? Yes. I would really like to knit this again to the actual correct gauge and in the colour that is on the original pattern. So she's originally done it in like a camel colour, and camely tan brown is a colour I really, really love and fits in really nicely with my wardrobe and adds a warmth and colour to my basically black and white wardrobe, but without stepping out of my colour comfort zone. So yes, I would very much like to knit this again. I've just got to find the right time. I don't know if I will or not, we'll see. But I would, in theory, definitely knit this again. My mum has said that she really likes this as well and would like one in navy, so maybe that's something that I'll do if I ever get the urge. I just freaked out. I could see a man trying to get into my back garden, but it's my window cleaner. Now that was truly terrifying. Honestly, I just saw this person like climbing over my back fence. Oh my gosh, Darren, why didn't you knock the door and ask me to open the gate? Anyway, so yeah, I think we'd rounded this one off. We've got 4 left. So, now I can't remember which was next, but they were all pretty much around the same time. So next I'm gonna go on to this guy, which, considering it was the middle of summer at the time, I'm not sure why I went down this road. I do remember I was completely 100% influenced by Fernanda from the Little Monkeys and Me podcast. She knit this in its original blue colours and I just fell in love with it. It is the Maya cardigan by, oh my gosh, Helen Magnusson. I'm on fire. It is the Maya, and it's a bottom-up colourwork steeked cardigan. Now I had dabbled with steeking before, but only on a small scale for my daughter, and this steek didn't go that well. I go into more detail in one of my podcasts obviously, but I knit this in 5 days. I enjoyed this project so much that I could not put it down, and from what I remember it's like 5 or maybe 5mm needles, so you know, and it's small in its size. There's not a lot of ease, especially on the sleeves. But yeah, I knit this super quickly, and it is made with Letlopi, which is a weight down from the Alaphoslopi. So it's the Icelandic, really thick, warm yarn. Yeah, oh, this sleeves are definitely tight. I did gauge swatch for this, but I didn't change needle sizes for the colour work versus the non-colour work, mainly because I couldn't be bothered, in all honesty. So the fit of it is fine, but it's not the same kind of fit as the picture on the pattern suggests. I'm not sure when I chose my size, I was thinking very much about ease, so I'm pretty sure it's the size I chose rather than the pattern itself, but the picture, you've got a lot more of a looser kind of slouchy fit, but for mine, the sleeves are tight all the way along and the body is pretty tight as well. So this is a strange one because if I saw this in a shop, I probably wouldn't buy it. I would appreciate it, but I probably wouldn't buy it. And I think it was around this time that I was starting to realise that I was becoming more of a process knitter. I'm not sure I was aware of it at the time, but I think that's when it started to happen. I was really attracted to this pattern because I wanted to do the construction, I wanted to do the techniques, I wanted to do the colour work, but it's not necessarily something I would choose myself. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. It's just, I think, in order to have a wardrobe that is full of pieces I wear all the time, I might need to focus that process knitting towards knitting things for other people. So if I see a pattern I really want to like, really want to try, but I might not wear it, I need to kind of think of someone who I could knit it for. You okay, baby? So, how often do I wear this? Not a lot. But again, it has a very specific purpose. It's very, very warm, so it's only something I wear when it's really, really cold. So just like with the Cedar Lane, when I need something really, really warm, I tend to gravitate towards this. And this is like double warm because it's stranded colour work, so this fabric here is double the thickness of here. Merry Christmas, baby! And because of its tighter fit, I can actually wear it under my coat. I can't wear my chunky one under my coat, so I wear that even less. But this one I do tend to turn to when I have to be outside. I know it's going to be cold. I actually wore this Christmas shopping this year with my husband, like in the middle of December. And it was perfect because I was walking around a lot, going in and out of shops that were really, really warm and out into the cold. And I was able to just wear this without a big coat and then get too hot in my coat and take it off and have to carry it. So this is definitely a very practical knit, and I prefer it in the kind of more Christmassy time because it does have the kind of festive element to it. So the yarn, how is the yarn held up? Very much like the Alaphoslopi. It's the same yarn, just a smaller weight. There's no pilling going on. It's still just as strong and tough as when I knit it. Now, would I knit this again? Yes, and I intend to. If you've seen the Crayabea knitting podcast, Rebecca has done this, but she hacked it so it was top down, and she knit it as a sweater, and she used just like a dark burgundy red, and she did all the colour work in white, and it was possibly one of the most beautiful pattern hacks I've ever seen in my life. It's like festive, but subtly festive. So I would really, really like to make something like that this year for Christmas. I have got a DK weight, like burgundy, crimson, red yarn, which I'm not sure what to do with, so I might make it with that. I may need to adjust the pattern slightly, but now I know how to figure out gauge and what size to knit based on gauge, then I think I could probably do that. So yes, I hopefully will have another one of these in my future, a basic rip-off of Rebecca's one. Next, so I was definitely in a phase of knitting really, really fast at this point, or I was probably avoiding some life issues that I didn't want to deal with. So next up we have another cardigan. It wasn't a steeped cardigan, and this is a special one as well for two reasons. Firstly, because I knit this for my brother-in-law's wedding. I wore a yellowy greeny floral dress, and I wanted something to cover me up as and when it got chillier. And also this yarn was my first ever officially #gifted ad sponsored yarn. It is the Filcolana Peruvian Highland wool held with Filcolana Tilia, I think, and it was gifted to me by my now dear friend Simona from knit.co.uk. You all have heard me talk about her a lot. I was already ordering a lot of yarn from her before she sent me some, so it was definitely a friendship and working relationship that developed really naturally over time, and I'm very grateful for her. This is the Mary cardigan, and it's by Trico Alice Hammer, and it is a bottom-up cardigan with a kind of cabley, lacy, bobbly kind of pattern to it. There you go. Again, this was a very quick knit, but I did it quickly because I had 2 weeks to do it, and I did it in about 5 to 7 days, I think. So I really love this cardigan. Of all the colours that I will tolerate to be worn on my body, green is one of them. And I wore this a lot. I wore it a lot when I first made it because we were kind of coming to the end of the summer, and I would wear it over a lot of like t-shirts and stuff. And I feel myself being drawn to it again now we're entering into spring. But for a cardigan, it is quite heavy. Now, so the pattern is originally in French. Obviously I knit the English translation, and it wasn't 100%. Quite a few errors in it and a lot of kind of self-interpretation. I basically had to make the short rows up myself. I had to look at other people's projects on Ravelry to see if there are any notes about what you should or shouldn't do. I basically didn't get gauge, but kind of chose a different size. And yeah, it was a difficult pattern to follow, but worth it because I think it is just stunning. The original pattern is this reverse stockinette all the way through, but I can't handle reverse stockinette. Seeing those pearl bumps on the outside, I think it's a texture thing, and it also just feels really, really wrong. Like I see people knitting the Weekender by Andrea Mowry that's all inside out stockinette, and I'm like, I can't do it. I'd have to wear it the other way around. So I changed it so that the arms and the body were all in normal stockinette, and I just had the reverse stockinette behind all the lace and the cables because that's what makes it really pop out. The original pattern I had an issue with the buttons, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, there's enough buttons on there, but I feel like I could have done with maybe one more button. And I know that there are guides to how much space should be between each button, but I think because of my yarn choice and the weight of the garment, it pulls them apart. So I could have. How often do I wear it? In the right season. All the time. I feel really proud when I wear this. I'll always get someone say, oh my gosh, love your cardigan, and I'm like, I made it. So it's always a bit of fun for that. The yarn has so far held up really, really well. We've got a little bit of pilling along here. I'm pretty sure that's from the Tilia because this is the one and only time I've used Tilia, but I've used the Filcolana Peruvian Highland wool many times for a lot of accessories that get a lot of wear, and so far it hasn't pilled at all. The Peruvian is one of my favourite yarns and is probably my kind of Aran weight go-to. So that's my Mary. You're back! Hi! The next thing, I'm gonna have to like take my little t-shirt off, so I'm gonna do that off camera. Bear with. This one's been folded up for quite a while, can you tell? So this is the only kind of summer garment that I have. I didn't really get on the summer knitting thing until quite late in the season last year, and I'm very much looking forward to getting more summer knits going this year. This is the Seabourn tee by Hannah Levin of Her Garden Knitwear, and this was a test knit. I don't know how I came across Hannah. I was following her on Instagram, but I saw her post this, and her original one was like a pale blue with a white stripe, and the minute I saw it, I was like, Mommy, yes please. And between me first seeing it and the test call being done, I kind of got to know Hannah a little bit more and chatted to her a bit more, so she gave me a testing spot, which I was very lucky to have, and I enjoyed every single second of it. So it's really beautiful cropped length. It's worked from the bottom up, which is a technique I actually find I really quite enjoy, and don't find the whole trying on thing that difficult, especially with the help of the really long stretchy stitch holders you can get now. But yeah, this is a really satisfying knit because you've got that stripe, so it's like a little bit of interest every single time. And one of the amazing things about this pattern is Hannah gives you instructions on how to choose a bust size and an arm circumference, and then it shows you how to work out how big your armhole should be, which is next level designer amazingness. Because I think one of the biggest things that's missed, especially with larger sizes, is that even though a bust circumference increases, the arm circumference doesn't necessarily increase at the same rate, and also the proportion of your bust size to your arm is quite a personal thing, and there is no one size fits all, there is no average when it comes to that area. So the fact that Hannah gives you all the tools you need in a really simple way to make this work for you and your body, it's just brilliant. And I knew when I knit this pattern, I was like, I'm so glad to have this designer in my life. And I'm really pleased for Hannah, she's just been published in Pom Pom. Yay, go Hannah. So that is my last knit from last year that I knit for myself. That was by somebody else. And we've got one more for you that was knit by me, but I'm just gonna knit by me. They were all knit by me, designed by me. Bear with me. Now, this was my last finished object of 2021 garment wise for myself. There is one that I missed. I did a love note in a variegated purple mohair and I never wore it. I'll pop a picture here of it. It was a beautiful garment and a beautiful yarn, but I didn't like the way it pulled and I didn't wear it because I didn't like the colour and I didn't like the fit of it either. So I gave it to my mother, who does love it. So that got donated to her. I also knit a magnolia bloom for my sister. I knit that in August. I did that in a grey colour and she absolutely loved that. It suits her so well. And then going into the autumn months, that's when I started designing the schoolroom collection, which is a winter accessories collection. So during that time I was very much back in the accessories and hats and gloves and socks and stuff. So I laid off the garments a little bit. I also did the child's version of this one, and I think I started working on Christmassy things. I started working on my first sweater that's the first sweater by Hive Knits in the autumn, but I didn't finish it till this year, so I've not included it in this, and you can see it in the next episode of the Knitting Pickle podcast. But as far as 2021 goes, this was my last finished object garment wise, and if you've been following me for a while, you will know that this is called Little Sparks, and it is my own design, and it's one that it means so much to me because I think it was my first design where I thought, oh my god, yes, I've got something here. People seem to really like it, I really want to go forward with it. But it was also the first time, the blue tip's back. It's also the first time I attempted to grade a pattern fully, and it didn't make life easy for myself because it's colour work as well. Now, I have fully graded, did I do the questions with my Seabourn tee? Didn't do the questions with my Seabourn tee. How often do I wear it? All the time in the summer. I just haven't had a chance to wear it in the summer yet. How is the yarn holding up? Very well. And would I knit it again? Yes, definitely. Such a pleasurable knit. I'd knit it for somebody else. I'd knit myself one. I'd definitely knit that pattern again. Anyway, back to this. So yes, I graded the child's one and then got really scared of actually doing the test call. And I got the idea in my head that I was going to do the child and the adult all at the same time, do the test call at the same time, do the releasing at the same time. But I majorly halted in writing down and grading this pattern. I have graded the yoke, I haven't done the sleeve decreases, and in this design the sleeve decreases are meant to be quite fitted to the arm, but I will probably include instructions to have a looser fit and then a rapid decrease at the cuff, because I know quite a lot of people like that. It's between long and cropped length. I call it French tuck length, like boop. Just long enough to tuck in, but you don't have masses of fabric and it's not like coming up at the back. So I have partially written this pattern, but majorly stalled on it, and then I went into Christmas and I had lots of Christmas knits to do, and then I started working on some new designs that are all in the podcasts, and I just stopped working on this one. And I've been trying to figure out why recently, and after talking to some friends, I think I got to the bottom of it. I'm gonna have some real talk here. Whenever I share this on Instagram, there's been so much hype for it and loads of people excited about it, wanting to knit it, wanting to test it, which is so good and really brilliant. It shows that my designs are something that people want, and it's probably a good idea for me to follow that. But I think the fear that's in my mind with this design is, what if I release it and people are disappointed? And I'm pretty sure that's what they call imposter syndrome. It's been such a barrier for me. Like, what if I do it? What if it gets to test knitting and there's real problems with it and it doesn't work? And what if I can't figure out how to do the edits and all these what ifs? What if I'm actually just a big fat fraud and people are going to find out and then it's all going to be ruined? That's what's going on in my head with this design. I know that's pretty deep for a what I knit in a year thing, but I tell you how it is, and this is the kind of stuff I talk about. So this year I've been working on a series of patterns called the souffle patterns, and one of which is like a mohair blouse that's a circular yoke, and I have graded, edited, and that pattern is now in testing. And everything happened that I expected to happen with this. The editing was really difficult. I got the numbers wrong many times before we finally got them right. And now we're in the testing process, and there are issues, especially with the larger sizes, because I've never graded or written a pattern for the larger sizes before. But the world hasn't ended. We made it through the editing process. My tech editor has been so supportive and helpful and encouraging. And when I got that email saying, it's done, you can do the test call, your numbers are fine, let's go, it was like, oh my God. And I did the test call, and I had loads of applications and managed to find people to test all the sizes. And we have found that there are issues with the length, there are some issues with the way the pattern's worded, but all that feedback from the testers has been a good thing. It used to feel like if I find out that it's wrong, it's a step back. It's like that feeling you get when you realise you should probably rip back your work and start again. It feels like you're stepping back, you've lost time, you've wasted time. But what I've learned from the souffle is that actually those edits, those changes, those ripping back and going forward, it's not a step back at all. It's actually a step forward, it's a step closer to the finished thing. Might not be exactly how you envisioned it when you first did it, but that doesn't mean it's wrong. And yeah, that's what I've learned throughout the souffles, but I don't know what it was. I don't know what made me just go straight hard in there with the souffles. I think it felt less intimidating on the whole because there was no colour work involved. But with the skills that I've learned from going through the process with the souffle, I do feel like I'm ready to tackle this now. So now I've built up some confidence with the souffle patterns, I feel ready to tackle this one. So once there are 3 different souffles, there's the mohair version, the chunky version, and the kids version. So once they're all done, I'm going to then try and focus my attention on this. I need to reknit the child's one because the one that I've made isn't in the correct yarn, so therefore I can't really recommend it or use the pictures for it. But I bought some very exciting yarn at Unravel last weekend.
Scratch.
My daughter the medic. I got a scratch.
It's the school scratch.
Oh, are you putting cream on my scratch?
Yeah.
Can I have a kiss as well? Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good.
It is.
Do you think 5 needs some?
Okay.
So, yes, I'm hoping this is going to come to you this year. I don't really know when. I don't know how I feel about releasing jumpers in the summer yet. I understand that obviously it's only my hemisphere that's about to go into the summer, and that leaves a whole other hemisphere of people going into winter that might want to knit it, but I'm not too sure yet. But just so you know, for those of you who've been following me for a while, it will happen eventually. So, how often do I wear it? all the time. It is my most worn jumper because I'm so proud of it, and I wear it at least once or twice a week. And I mean, and then that's also because it fits me really well, because I designed it to fit me really well.
Monkey! What a monkey! You monkey! You dropped your monkey! I dropped my tiger!
How has the yarn held up? So this is the Sandnes Garn and Petite Knit Double Sunday, and when I was first knitting with it, it felt like quite dry and I was a bit unsure about it, but to wear, it's really, really nice. It's a non-superwash merino, but it like doesn't feel rustic at all, but I suppose a merino wouldn't feel rustic. It's super smooth and nice. I love the way that the colour work, the stitches of the colour work look after it's been blocked, and overall it's kept its shape really well. It hasn't grown loads, so I obviously will be recommending this yarn. The only thing is it has pilled, and it pilled like a lot straight away, and I have recently shaved it and I've got a little bit here, but it's massively calmed down now. I think it just needed to have that initial shed, and after maybe a few more washes and shaves it will calm down. But that's the nature of soft wools. If you want a really soft, smooth garment that isn't acrylic or a man-made fibre, then you're gonna get pilling. But overall, I'm really impressed with this yarn. Will I be making another one? I will be making another child's one very, very soon. I don't know if I'll be making another adult one, maybe one day in the future, who knows. So there you go, that brings us to the end of all the garments that I made in 2021. Looking back over the year, I've actually surprised myself with how I feel about it and what I've realised. I think it really was a year of discovery for me. Discovery for me as a knitter, and discovery for me as a person, for sure. But I really feel like I now know what it is I want and need from a garment. And going forward, if I am going to knit something, it's going to be very, very considered and thought out. And I'm still learning that lesson. Right at the end of last year, I cast on the Augustine's number 21 dress, which has now been frogged because, again, I was really attracted to the pattern, but I didn't fully think out where it would sit in my wardrobe. But it's now been turned into something that I do intend to wear a lot more, but I'll save that for the next podcast. So yeah, that's the lesson of 2021, I think. So I hope you enjoyed this little look into my knitted wardrobe. Which was your favourite? Are there any in there that you've knit or that you would now like to knit? Let me know. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.